ॐ अयाहि वरदे देवी रक्षरे ब्रह्मवादिनी गायत्री छन्दसाङ्माता ब्रह्मजनी नमस्तुते। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय आविराविर्मयेधि रुद्रजत्ते दक्षिणमुखां तेन मां पाहि नित्यं तेन मां पाहि नित्यम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। O Divine Mother of the Universe, reveal Thyself in our heart and in our midst. We invoke Thy presence amidst us. Thou art the supreme word of the Scriptures. Thou art the embodiment of knowledge and liberation. Thou art the supreme bridge to immortality. Lead us from unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death, disease and suffering to immortality. Manifest Thyself in us through and through, and protect us with Thy compassionate face. Om peace, peace be unto us, peace be unto all living beings. Our subject this morning is the taste of inner bliss. I'll read from Shankaracharya's Crestjewel of Discrimination, translations of few verses. The universe is an unbroken series of perceptions of Brahman. Hence, it is in all respects nothing but Brahman. See this with the eye of illumination and a serene mind under all circumstances. Is one who has eyes ever found to see all around anything else but forms? Similarly, what is there except Brahman to engage in the intellect of a man of realization? What wise man would discard that enjoyment of supreme bliss and revel in things unsubstantial? When the exceedingly charming moon is shining, who would wish to look at a painted moon? From the perception of unreal things, there is neither satisfaction nor a cessation of misery. Therefore, being satisfied with the realization of the bliss of Absolute, the One without a second, live happily in a state of identity with the real Brahman. Beholding the Self alone in all circumstances, thinking of the Self, the One without a second, and enjoying the bliss of the Self, pass thy time, O noble soul. Dualistic perceptions and conceptions in the Atma, the infinite knowledge, the Absolute, are like imagining castles in the air. Therefore, always identifying thyself with the bliss absolute, the One without a second, and thereby attaining supreme peace, remain quiet. The mind, which is the cause of unreal imaginings, is in a restful state to the sage who has realized Brahman and is identified with it. This verily is supreme quietude, in which there is constant enjoyment of bliss, absolute, one without a second. To a man who has realized his own nature and drinks the undiluted bliss of the self, there is nothing more exhilarating than the quietude that comes of a state of desirelessness. The illumined sage, whose only pleasure is in the self, ever lives at ease, whether going or staying, sitting or lying, or in any other condition. The noble soul who has perfectly realized the truth, whose mind functions meet with no abstraction, no more depends upon conditions of place, time, posture, direction, moral disciplines, objects of meditation, and so forth. What regulative conditions can there be in knowing one's own self? So this Atman, which is an eternal variety, manifests itself as soon as the right means of knowledge is present and does not depend upon either place or time. Here is the self-effulgent Atman of infinite power, beyond the range of conditioned knowledge, yet the common experience of all, realizing which alone this incomparable knower of Brahman lives his glorious life, freed from bondage. Satisfied with undiluted, constant bliss, he is neither grieved nor elated by sense objects, is neither attached nor averse to them, but always disports with the self and takes pleasure therein. A child plays with the toys, forgetting hunger and bodily pains. Exactly so the man of realization takes pleasure in reality, without the ideas of I and mine, and is happy. Men of realization have their food without anxiety or humiliation, by begging, and their drink from the water of rivers. They live freely, independently, and sleep without fear in cremation grounds or forests. Their clothing may be quarters themselves, which need no washing and drying or any work, etc. The earth is their bed. They roam in the avenue of Vedanta, while their pastime is the supreme Brahman. To the knower of Brahman, who wears no outward mark, unattached to external things, rests on this body, without identification, experiences all sorts of sense objects as they come through others, wish like a child. Established in the ethereal plane of knowledge and absolute, he wanders in the world, sometimes like a madman, sometimes like a child, in other times like a ghoul, having no other clothes on his person except quarters, or sometimes wearing clothes or perhaps skins and other times. Spiritual inquiry is that which makes a human being worth the name. If we ask, why should we be spiritual? That is the answer. Eating, sleeping, sex drive, satisfaction of the gross urges, these are common for animals and also human beings. But that which distinguishes a human individual from animals is the only one thing: the inquiry of the real nature of one's individuality. An ancient verse says, Dharmena hina pasubhi saman. A person who does not have that inquiry is nothing but an animal. The word pashu means animal. Dharma means spiritual inquiry. Samana means equal. This inquiry has no substitute, no customs, no dress, no mannerism can substitute that. So Ramakrishna says, the word man, manus, means one who is aware of his man, means one estimate, self-estimate. One who is not aware, he cannot be called a human being. He may be intellectually learned, he may be a billionaire, he may possess the earth, he may be king, emperor, but still he is an animal, because he lives on the lower planes of life. Hence, this is the glory of human life. Shankaracharya makes a point that after having a human form, which, following the doctrine of reincarnation, a person attains after traveling through 8100 thousands of lower progenies, beginning from tree, plant, lower animals, then he gets a human form. After that, if he does not make this inquiry, he verily commits suicide. This inquiry is that which makes a person fully alive. One who does not have that, from psychological point of view, is not fully alive. That person may be clinically alive, intellectually alive, morally alive, but all those become meaningless without that entity. A tree also lives. A dog also eats. A monkey also eats. So therefore, simply continuation of the physical entity is not called living. What for? Simply increasing the longevity of life. Can this be the goal? There are trees who live 500 years. There are turtles who live about 300. Do you want to have the turtle as our ideal, or a redwood tree? Then comes moral, emotional, intellectual. What for? What is the goal? Even to be moral, to do good. What for? The text says, do good to others. Others say, why shall I do good to others? Why not I harm, to make gain, cheat, rob? The answer is, others and you are non-different with regard to your basic nature, the soul. By hurting others, you hurt yourself. By robbing others, you rob yourself. By cheating others, you cheat yourself. The answer to the question, do good to others, can be found only in the Upanishads, that I and others are not two things. Another text says, a person who does not bow his head to that supreme reality, it is hollow. It is like a stone. A mouth which wakes up in the morning without chanting the name of God, gorgeous food, and makes sound, that mouth is the mouth of a frog, not a human mouth. The hands which have not done service to others, seeing the presence of God in everybody, those hands are like two wooden things hanging. The feet which have not traveled to holy places, they are only logs. A house or a home where sacred texts are not uttered, chanted, or studied. Knowers of God or seekers of God are not honored and appreciated. Charities, austerities are not practiced. That is not a home for the living. That is verily a crematorium. Those who live there, they long ago died. Hence, this is that light which makes the whole house illumined. That is the glory of self-inquiry. Self-inquiry or spiritual quest is a natural outcome of our inner and outer evolution. Life evolved, first in water. Then it began to change. As an individual, we are part of the total evolution of the cosmos. Life principle, from water, it became land-borne, then amphibious, in search of something which the world could not give. It began to change form. The aspiration is wanting to be happy in a lasting way, wanting to overcome death, decay, dissolution, wanting to be aware of things other than itself. These are the three basic aspirations or desires. If all the desires of a human individual are brought down to three categories, these will be the three. But these three cannot be found in limited. Hence, the text says, Bhumaiva sukham, nalpe sukham asti. There is no happiness in anything which is limited, transitory. Bhumo means the infinite. This is the anguish of the soul lost in the world of becoming to its original nature. It is a journey. It began in the physical level. It began to change form one after the other, from birds, from trees, plants to birds and beasts. Then it reached the human level. What is the urge which brought us to this level? When Swami Vivekananda was traveling during his wandering days, he was going on a pilgrimage on a mountain top. Hundreds of people were going. In that, there was a holy man. A monk also was going. He was an old man. And there you have to walk about 10,000-12,000 feet, quite steep. He reached almost 3/4. Then he got exhausted. and he sat down. He asked for help when other people are passing by. When he came to Swami Vivekananda was also traveling in disguise, unknown, he put that question, "Will please anyone help me?" Swami Vivekananda says, "The robe which you are wearing, that is the robe of strength, renunciation. Who brought you from the foothill up to these thousands of feet altitude? Your will. Who brought you, sir, from the level of the birds and beasts to this human and this your holy pursuit? That which you brought you to this elevated position will also take you to the rest of the journey. Don't depend upon anybody's help." So which brought us to this human stage? That relentless search. I want something better, superior. So that search began with changing bodies. We reached the human stage. Human body is considered a maximum of physical evolution. There is no other physical form in the universe so perfect, so complete. In the lower stage, there was only lower brain. The creatures were dependent on physical strength. Survival was the main goal of life. Survival of the fittest. Lower brain, which takes care of our bodily functions, heartbeat, breathing, circulation, that was the only brain. Nature gave physical support in the form of physical strength, body structure, many of the qualities for survival. Like the owl, it has night vision, which we are imitating now, because it has to gather food. Some creatures, their outer crust is strong, inner organs are inside. Nature gave these protections. A tiger, a bear, physical strength. Many creatures, they have their color blended with the nature for survival. But then, as the forms began to change, higher brain developed. Higher brain is, in one word, the mind began to emerge from the ocean of crude impulses and instincts, which are the driving mechanism of the subhuman beings. Higher brain, as it developed, nature began to withdraw the support and protection which it gave in the subhuman stage. So human being is not as big like a tiger. It does not require wings. It is very fragile. All the senses are very powerful. In animal stage, most of the senses were dull. One or two highly superfine. And one, perfection in one, you're counterbalancing the imperfections of the other. A bloodhound, let us say. A bloodhound exhibits a fineness of smell, which in the Patanjali's aphorisms is one of the superfine manifestations of a yogi. Somewhat like clairvoyance and clairaudience. Smelling something a criminal did 2 weeks ago, it can walk and find out. A human being ordinarily does not have. Because all the senses now are fully vigorous, going outward. Body is fragile, but nature has given him the higher brain. It can control, it can manipulate, it can maneuver. Higher brain began to make flights into the higher and higher planes, leaving the lower brain for housekeeping. We eat the food from the mouth, going through the esophagus, going to the stomach, enzymes are coming. It is all done automatically, but being monitored by the lower brain. We are not even aware. We do not need to. Leaving the higher brain scope to think and improve, to make higher flights. But reaching the human plane, need of the change of form did not go away. Some think heavenly form, earthly form finished. Now comes maybe the form of an angel will be helpful, bring lasting peace, immortality. So people began to direct their thoughts, austerities, for getting a heavenly body. You know, the idea of heaven is so deep that we make effort, even moral perfection, ethical, to reach heaven. But in heaven also, things are not anything much better. I can tell you a beautiful story about heaven I came across. A couple who had been courting for 10 to 15 years got killed in a car accident. And when they arrived at the gates of heaven, they informed St. Peter that they regretted not getting married on earth and asked if they could get married in heaven. They couldn't get, courting means they're not trusting each other. Well, you have to wait a while, said St. Peter. So they waited a year, went back to St. Peter again and said, we really want to get married, and we don't understand why we have to wait. You have to wait a while longer, said the venerable saint. They waited for 2 years, and then went back again and said, we can't understand why you are putting us off. We have come for an explanation. St. Peter scratched his head, hemmed and hawed, and said, well, it is like this. We are waiting for a preacher, but we expect one soon. Then he said, it is good thing you want to get married and not get a divorce. We don't know whether or not we will ever get a lawyer. So our idea of heaven is an extension of a comfortable material life in some other realm. At least from the Vedanta point of view, heaven and hell, they are mere experiences, a sort of dream. Then again return to the earth, not finding the solution. There also they die after living millions of years. The idea of immortality in heaven, which the sacred texts tell us, the relative immortality. Millions of years of life in heaven is looked upon as immortal to the fragile, short-lived existence of 100 years on earth. The sacred texts, in order to spur human mind for the search for the final truth, they have used those languages of eternal happiness, eternal youth, and so forth. So long there is happiness, there will be sorrow. More the capacity to experience happiness, more will be the capacity to experience misery. Finer the mind, intense is the happiness, more intense is the suffering. Either you accept both or you reject both. Self-knowledge is neither pleasurable or painful. Idea of bliss, what we are talking of, joy, is when you return and when you reach the journey. Many people say, what I am getting? What do I get? I pray, meditate, go to the church, chant God's name. The answer is, what do you want to get? The journey itself is bliss. When you go on a vacation, your joy is before you arrive. Once you arrive, you begin to think of coming home. So therefore, when you reach the goal, that is the end of the story, end of the novel, and end of all experience. Again, if you come back, make a comeback or want to come back, you recount that great experience and joy you had. So the joys or bliss is as you proceed. And also, when you come back to the outer plane or earthly plane. For the form, evolution of form at this stage stopped. The survival of the fittest ended. It is not true that survival of the fittest is the last word in evolution. It is true only up to a certain stage. Then comes self-sacrifice, not survival. Now, the evolution began in the mental plane. No longer we are trying to change form and residence. Going to heaven is transition from attempt to change form to change residence. Both ended here. Then we began to change thoughts. That is when the real spiritual inquiry begins. In search of that supreme truth in the outside world. First, in possessing material comforts, wealth, name, fame, power. Then, giving up, sacrifice, going through heaven-earth interspaces in search of God. In the temple altar, holy waters, sacred books, I make the circle complete. It is the law of science. If from me I start out with a straight line, infinitely, I will make a circle and come back here again. But where I began, I will end up again there. Then the mental evolution began. Difference between one person and another is not in physical form, but in the texture and quality of the person's thought, in which plane of consciousness the person lives. You have read about the 6 centers of consciousness. The base of the spine, the area of the organ of evacuation, the navel, the heart, the throat, then between the eyebrows, the crown of the head. Grosser the human nature, lower would be the plane of existence where the person dwells. Average person goes back and forth between the first and the third. They are like peepholes through which we see the external world. Remaining in the lower 3, a person receives signals from the external world only in terms of eating, sleeping, procreation. The whole world is giving that message. When it reaches the 4th center, the same world which was sending all these dirty signals now begins to send luminous signals. They seem more unified. It has different meaning. As it goes higher and higher, it begins to become more wonderful and more wonderful. So the difference between one person and another, not in the person's automobile, what he drives, or his hairdo, or fur coat, but the quality of the person's mind and the level of consciousness, which level he lives. It is like a 6-story mansion. Where the boss lives, in the cellar or in the upper floor. Higher the floor, greater is the vista. Far is the vision. Lower the floor, narrow is the vision. Dark. That is the distinction between one person and another. This search which he is doing by changing form, residence and thought. As I said earlier, it is the anguish of to imitate the biblical teaching, the anguish of the prodigal son to return to his all-loving father. The idea of salvation spoken of in different traditions. It is a joyous quest. It is a story of homecoming. Spiritual journey is that journey toward home to reach the goal. Those who have not tasted anything, for them it is a dry, a drudgery discipline. But those who are really anxious, it is a great festivity at each moment. It begins with tremendous discontent with things which the person has or possesses. This dissatisfaction toward or its feeling of limitation, the beginning. The person is wanting something more, which the world cannot give. An intense restlessness comes. That is the sign of life. Swami Vivekananda says, sign of life is not subduing ourselves to the nature, but rebelling against nature. Means external. The words which you hear, we should be in tune with nature. Often. You need not think that means that we will be coming down to the level of trees and plants. Tune means in harmony of spiritual unity, not physical. So dissatisfaction is a driving force for improvement. It is the story of a journey. It begins with doubt, a twilight of doubt and faith. Spiritual teachings are not applicable to those who are all in doubt. Scriptures are useless to a person who has no interest in spiritual matters. These are also useless to a person who has already reached the journey. But they are useful, those who are in between. A person who is full of doubt, this is not necessary. Or one who has attained faith, permanent faith, he does not need books and temples. Like a cookbook. A person who is not interested in cooking, he eats out all the time. No use for him to buy a cookbook. And one who is a very good chef, he does not consult a cookbook each time. But those who are learning cooking, in between useful. So are the temples, so are the traditions, so are the practices. So the journey begins with a twilight of doubt and faith. Ends in illumination and enlightenment. It begins with illusion and reality. Ends in the light of reality. It begins with certainty and uncertainty. It ends in perfect certainty. It has stages. First, the person is an inquirer. Then seeker. Then knower. Then seer. First we inquire about it. Read. Hear. An inquiry has come. Where from I came? Where do I go? Who am I? These three questions, when they appear, means the person is coming to the end of his delusion. These are auspicious questions. These three, in whom you do not find, that person has to wait. Still completely overwhelmed and overpowered by subconscious urges, gross urges. The animal nature is too strong. Mind still a hostage. The moment mind came out of the hostage, these questions will come. Dissatisfaction, restlessness. So the inquiry, when it becomes active, when seeking comes, we begin to seek. Seeking God in the mountain caves, holy waters, in the temple. At one stage, seeking ends because we don't find anything. Then comes knowing, which is the result of evolution of thought. You cannot seek or know which is ever present. You only discover. Knowing in your inner consciousness with eyes closed is not enough. It is only one part of the story. Knowing becomes complete when you begin to see also with your eyes open. To see God with eyes closed in your prayer room, that is not enough. But to see with open eyes also, that makes it complete. Sri Ramakrishna describes another Bhagavad Gita as began. Truth is to be known, God is to be known by Jnana and began. Jnana is unity vision, inner vision. A person who does not see this reality is ignorant and deluded. One who sees only in the inner consciousness, in the state of absorption, he is Jnani. One who sees in both conditions, eyes open and closed, is began. It is like, first, you want to drink milk. You read about it. Then you see the milk. You saw the milk, you felt it with your finger. That is not all. You drink the milk, get strength. That is called, you enjoy the knowledge which you attain in your inner absorption. And when you enjoy, you become contented, satisfied. Then only you bring the message of peace to the outside world. You dive deep, then you surface. Each time it has relative. It is not that you begin an inquiry with uncertainty, and until you reach, there is no message. Every day, every time you sit down in your prayer, contemplation, meditation, you are diving deep inside. Every time you come out of your prayer room, you are supposed to bring a glad tidings, some message. That message is called Vijnana. You are able to translate that knowledge or perception in your thoughts, behaviors, and responses to the outside world. Then only you gain conviction. An umbrella is tested in rain. A speaker, he may make countless digressions, but he always comes back to his central theme. An expert dancer does not make a false step. So when this Vijnana has come, you have tested bliss. Not only you heard about it, you read about it, you saw a person, but you yourself now have tested. And that comes out in expressions through every pore of your being. So the seeker becomes the seer. You no longer seek God. Seeing begins where seeking ends. So long we are seeking, we cannot see God. It is like you are seeking forest by counting trees. You go to a forest, you are trying to see where is the forest, in this corner or that corner, this spot or that spot. Forest is a collective vision. It is not individual. God, being said, is sum total of all souls. That is pragmatic definition of God. From theistic and dualistic point of view, the sum total of all souls. In our body there are countless cells. Or you might say there is a number. All these cells They are being guided by one central will, that is your personality. Some of the cells which they do not cooperate with the welfare of the whole organism, the body, we call them, they're cancerous. They develop like a tumor. Because some cells, they're going against the collective interest. They're selfish. They grab the rights of others, even to the detriment of the whole body. Exactly. Ignorance is that. Ego is that. It's an individual out of being forgetful, self-forgetful. He becomes like a tumor in the universe. He disclaims the rights of others, deprives others of the rightful share. He grabs everything. The result, as a surgeon cuts the tumor out, nature has its ways of surgery. They automatically gets out. So therefore, this seeking unity vision comes there. We call seers of the Vedas. Means they see. They are established in it. To the extent of the depth you have gone, to the extent of that would be your unity vision with eyes open. In worship also, Upanishads speak of two forms of worship. One with eyes closed, the other is with eyes open. With eyes closed, you worship the macro God, the sum total of all souls. But there is a micro God, because as you as a whole is present in every cell in a limited way. Similarly, that infinite God or reality is present in every human being as the soul of all soul, the indwelling consciousness. When both are worshipped, one through prayer, contemplation, other through unselfish service, then the worship becomes complete. Until then, it does not produce the result. Only worship of the macro God is sanitized worship, sterile. It is incomplete. The living God is being insulted. The unseen God is being adored. The seen God, palpable God, is being ignored. It does not produce the desired result. Question comes, what is the milestone? Are there a signpost in this inquiry? From the stage we began, to change our thought. First, inquiry, I said, scripture. Then teacher. Then practice. Then time factor. Journey, we do not know how far we are. So therefore, it's an organic development. We cannot hasten a person's spiritual growth. We cannot hasten spiritual evolution. It has its time. It begins with life of love, then of selfish devotion, then mutual devotion, means for my interest and for God's pleasure. Half and half. Finally, totally unselfish. Only for God's pleasure. It begins with hypothetical faith, then conviction, intellectual conviction, then emotional experiences, then intuitive experiences. But what are the attainments? If these are the stages, what I am getting? Because Vedic teachings greatly emphasize the cash value of a religious teaching. There are two values, cash value and credit value. All are telling credit value. They give us a credit card, you will enter heaven. Vedanta says, don't believe in that credit card. You get the cash value. Those who are telling you will go to heaven, what is the proof? I am going toward heaven or toward hell. Sri Ramakrishna says, as you move toward the ocean, first you hear the rumbling noise of the waves. Then cool breeze begins to come. You see the seagulls moving around. Then you come. Then he says, there are three kinds of pleasures. Bliss, Vishwayananda, pleasure derived from sense enjoyment. That is called Vishaya. It is polluted. It is like you want to drink water in the Hudson. You can drink from the battery part, where 70% would be what we call PCB and oil, or you can drink at the source. Vishwayananda is drinking polluted pleasure. It will quench the thirst, but also bring some melodies. Then comes Bhajanananda, joy in spiritual pursuit. Bhajana means chanting the name of God, prayer, meditation. That is superior joy. Then comes Brahmananda, the bliss of self-knowledge. Then pleasure, peace, joy, bliss. More toward pleasure dependent on the outside world. If the pleasure is on some persons and things, they are ever changing. So therefore that pleasure cannot be complete. So therefore more outward, more dependent, more changeful, more inward, less dependent, more lasting. So therefore that inversely related. It is said, if you have a desire for some sense object, if you discard that desire, nature rewards you by giving 16 times more enjoyment than you would have had from fulfillment of that desire. There is a mathematical ratio. All the joys and pleasures are being given by mind. Mind rewards you. When the mind is being devoted to sense pursuits, mind becomes angry. Mind does not want it. It is tortured. Nature of the mind is to flow upward, which is departure of Vedanta, emphasis from modern psychoanalysis. They are telling the movement of the mind is toward the gutter. Vedanta says opposite. Movement is upward. It is going toward the gutter because you are forcing the mind, and you forced long time, and it is mind is angry in doing that. If modern psychoanalysis is telling man is nature a fox, you have to, if you want to make him a lion, you have to give him education and training. But a fox can never be lion. He will be a fox lion. If his real nature is fox, you can never make him a lion. Vedanta says, he is a lion. Unable to be a lion, he has turned into fox. Foxy nature is his not real nature. He is eating by stealing or from the garbage can because he is not getting the better food. So remedy is not to punish him, or take the garbage cans away. But somehow having taste little better food. Instead of fighting and analyzing that gutter is bad, it is unhealthy, it is not good, these are futile teachings. One who is eating from the gutter, he knows that it is gutter. But he has no other way. Simply to tell a person, don't do this thing, it is bad, it's a negative teaching. It does not help. So hence, the negative attainments which we are looking for, well, people say mystic experiences. I hear a sound, see a vision. Is that the attainment you are looking for? Little occult power, that is the attainment. It's like a person who went to the Himalayas, after 12 years he came back and came to see his brother. And while talking to his brother was a farmer, he has his family. So each one asked each other, what did you gain? He said, I made money, I increased land, made bank deposits. What did you gain? Oh, you want to see? I'll take you across the river without a boat. So he took his brother. His brother said, all my life we are going by giving a penny to the boatman and he takes me. You have gained something which has only penny worth. Why I should go to the Himalayas, stay 20 years in cold, eating on fruits and roots whose value is 1 penny? Has it solved the question of your old age, decay? Has your fear of death been overcome? If it is not, you have wasted your time. So the mystic experiences can be deceptive. They come and go. Occult powers can be acquired and lost. That is magical. You are not wanting to be a magician by eating fruits and nuts. Emotions. Many people say another attainment is, I feel ecstasy. That can. Mind has its rise, has its fall. The person who is now jumping up and down in emotions, inquire after 2 hours, like a flat tire lying in the garage. Peace, it has a negative connotation. Cessation of sorrow. Cessation of sorrow is not a positive thing. Negative. Dispassion, dislike, that is negative gain. What is you like? Life is not guided by dislike. It is guided by what I like. What is that you like? A person who says, I don't like the world, I don't like this thing is bad, this thing is not at peace. You inquire, the person is suffering from a complex. Probably he is depressed. His depression is being taken as a dispassion. That's a deadly thing. So therefore, that has very little value. Self-mastery, moral perfection, for what? What is your goal? You want to control certain urges. For what for? Unless you have a goal, you cannot do it. And it is not reasonable. So therefore, these are all negative. positive is being said, that something new. Term is used, sublimation. Repression does not work. Abstinence does not help. Clubbing the desires is useless. Sublimation is you give a new direction. It has produced something different. That is being called bliss. So therefore, Upanishad is telling that this bliss, Brahman is bliss. This bliss manifests first as cessation of sorrow, then joy in thinking of the self, chanting about it, which is equivalent to prayer contemplation. Finally, joy in absorption and realization. And when this is not at all anything static, the person is unhappy, has no taste, is hungry. Is trying to fill up that hunger with this and that. So the goal is to experience that. He must have something satisfied. When it is not, as I said, he is no better than a sophisticated animal. An ancient myth teaches in a story that at creation the dog, the horse and the monkey and human beings were given 40 years each to live on this earth. The dog, the horse and the monkey said, "We don't need all this time to live." So they each gave man 10 years of that allotted 40 years. Now you know why man leads a dog's life between 40 and 50, works like a horse between 50 and 60, and after that he monkeys around. Old man monkeying around. He has nothing, unhappy. So the Brahman is being called bliss. Testing the bliss of intoxication, his life becomes fulfilled. Bliss first comes relish in the name of God. It's all the other words, if you repeat a prayer, it becomes stale. Anything relating to sense enjoyment, it becomes stale. If you say, layer cake is good, layer cake is glorious, if you say, suppose you chant this thing, I bet you'll get tired. But the name of God are related to the self. Each time you repeat, the more repeated, it becomes more delicious because it releases that bliss. It is a concentrated something. As Holy Mother Sarada Devi said, a sacred name of God or a prayer is like a sandalwood or a fragrant flower. The more you handle it, shake it, it releases the fragrance. So therefore, its beginning of this bliss is relish in the name of God. Do you enjoy it? Do you take the name as a discipline? You are still hungry. Do you chant the name of God to win a job or a lawsuit or get rid of some trouble? Still you have not tasted. When you say, I chant because I enjoy it, then you are beginning to get nourishment. Until then, you are all skin and bone, hungry. Relish in the name of God. Then that brings experience of mood Do you feel mood? Mood means when mind goes up, you are above, which has the nature of inebriation. Mood brings emotions, upsurges. The whole mind, body, they participate. Ordinarily it is said, when you sit down to pray or meditate, body participates. Then mind participates, emotions, the intellect participates, the soul participates. But before participating, a great orchestra already started. Until then, the violins are playing, but the flute is not playing, or it is out of tune. It will never be an orchestra. It is said, a text, tantra, that Dibbo, Pasu, Biro. Dibbo is divine, Pasu is animal, Biro is human. So when you take up a rosary, first Pasu, body, starts. Other two are having their, what do you call, sleeping. Then mind takes over. That time you are using the rosary but you are not aware. Last stage, the soul takes over. It is like a relay race. Mind, body are not aware. It is automatically happening. Then comes absorption into the self, which is inebriation, deeper and deeper. Absorption brings revelation. So first comes liking, which originates in the relish. Liking brings attachment to your spiritual pursuit and goal. Attachment is the forerunner of devotion. Then comes devotion, emotion, then devotion, then mood, then intoxication, then concentration, meditation, absorption, and bliss. All these successive stages are being measured, the degree of bliss you are getting. It is rooted. Question comes finally, how to have that taste? It is rooted in one-pointed loyalty to one ideal, by digging in the same place, by diving deep every day in a regulated way in the same depth. Then it is regularity of diving. First diving, regularity of diving. These two take us to the deeper layers. Deeper we are able to plumb. Then greater is the experience of bliss. Then we are safer. This experience of bliss only can make self-mastery possible. Success in spiritual matters is not dependent on any discipline, just a bad word. It comes only when you begin to get a taste. Self-control, mind control, overcoming lust and anger and so forth. The impossible tasks for a person who has not tasted this. But that which appears as impossible becomes possible only when the person has got a certain taste. I'll conclude with the beautiful lines of poem by famous saint poet Ramakrishna. I drink no ordinary wine, but the wine of everlasting bliss. Ramaprasad was the worshipper of Kali. Sri Ramakrishna's many songs are Ramaprasad songs. He loved singing Ramaprasad. As I repeat my mother Kali's name, it so intoxicates my mind that people take me to be drunk. First, my guru gives me the molasses for making of the wine. My longing is the ferment to transform it. Knowledge, the maker of the wine, prepares it for me then. And when it is done, my mind imbibes it from the bottle of the mantra, taking the mother's name to make it pure. Drink of this wine, says Ramaprasad, and the four fruits, that is, fulfillment of desire, moral success, wealth and prosperity, and salvation. These are the four. The four fruits of life are yours. So therefore, spiritual quest is in search of that drink, wine. The wine, cigarette tests only describe the glory of that wine, intoxicant. A recipe is given by the guide, teacher. But this is a homemade wine. You cannot buy anywhere. Your knowledge, of discriminated knowledge, self-control, they brew this wine. Knowledge and devotion, when they combine, this divine wine of bliss is prepared. Then it is kept in the bottle of the mantra. Ramaprasad says, this wine, you get the recipe. Make little effort to prepare. Keep it stored in bottle. Drink every day. You will be contented. Heaven, earth, interspaces, all would be jealous of you. That satisfaction and contentment will be manifested through your every pore. With that, you will be able to give joy and peace to all beings. One who has tasted the bliss, Shankaracharya says in his Atmabodha commentary, such a person is a moving temple, a visible pilgrimage. Wherever he goes, he carries with him auspiciousness, peace, love of God. Meeting such a person is equivalent to making 1,000 pilgrimages, bathing in hundreds of holy waters. Only seeing that, his joy, his satisfaction, his self-sacrifice for the good of others, can we be inspired to embark on this great adventure of life. Thank you. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma sarupine avatara paristhaya Ramakrishna-Vivekananda te namaha. We bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, who is the embodiment of the divine, establisher of religions, and foremost of the intelligence of God. Om, peace, peace be unto us, peace be unto all living beings.